On Monday night, Politico dropped a figurative bombshell. Apparently, a leaked draft majority opinion written by Samuel Alito would overturn the landmark Roe versus Wade decision. So now this has since been proven to be an actual draft. So it has been authentic, and so authenticated or it is true. So that's what they're going to do. Here comes the end of Roe v. Wade. Now, the draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision. This is according to Politico's Josh Gerstein and Alexander Ward, which guaranteed a federal constitutional protections of abortion rights in a subsequent 1992 decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that largely maintained or affirmed that right. So already we've got court precedent. We have these two decisions in the Supreme Court that were decided even by conservative justices back in the day, but that doesn't matter now because here we have an incredibly activist Supreme Court, which is far right in the majority. So understand that ending legal abortion, which is what this would do in many different states, it basically is the culmination of the conservative takeover of the Supreme Court, and it's what they've been gunning for decades. It's time to panic. It's panic time. They have come for your rights. If you are a woman, if you are a person capable of giving birth, getting pregnant, whether it be a trans person as well, you're in danger. The conservatives have come for your rights. And it's not just the rights of women, non-binary, who can get pregnant, or trans people who can get pregnant, but also the rights of men as well are under attack. It's all human rights. Reproductive rights are human rights. And it will lead to worse things. All right, so now, Gerstein writes that justices can and sometimes do change their votes as draft opinions circulate, and major decisions can be subject to multiple drafts and vote trading, sometimes until just days before a decision is unveiled. Now, the thing that's unique about this, though, is that we've never seen this happen before. We've never seen a draft leaked. Who leaked it, and for what reason? And again, there are a lot of different, I guess, theories about this. Maybe it was a liberal staffer that had leaked this, or what if it's a conservative staffer that had leaked this? And right now, the narrative over at Fox News is leaker, 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 right? And so they already have that narrative. And now, of course, the court is not happy about this. Let's just say that. The court is not happy about this. And there is already an investigation. I'm guessing we are going to hear all about the investigation and not actually what this entails, which is the end of legal abortion in this country in a lot of different states. All right, so now let's get into the opinion, though. We'll get into that other stuff later. Here's the opinion written by Alito. So I've got some quotes here. Here's what he writes. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision. So right there, he's basically saying, since it is not explicitly written inside of the Constitution that you have a right to an abortion, then you don't have a right to an abortion. And not only that, but again, this can be applied to every other decision that is based off of the right to privacy, which is what the decision for Roe v. Wade was based on. And so now you have all of those things. And again, I'll go through the details in another segment of what that means for other things like Obergefell, for example, or Loving Virginia, interracial marriage, or even sodomy laws, which is Lawrence v. Texas. It's going to have a massive ripple effect on all of these decisions that were based on the right of privacy. So that's very, very important. Now, he continues by writing that Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak. Really? Privacy? And the decision has had damaging consequences, such as, and then says, it is time to heed the Constitution and return to the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Oh, really? So now, again, you're going to turn it back to elected representatives in heavily gerrymandered districts in elections that are decided by a minority of people, where you have turnout that is incredibly dismal. Right. Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, it's a great idea for them. Now, look, Republicans have this straw manning position, conservative activists, about people who are defending the right to an abortion. They're saying that pro-choice activists want abortion on demand up until the moment of birth. Now, that's not true. So now here's how Roe v. Wade generally works, right? So now this was back in the ruling here. The court said in a 7-2 ruling that a state law that broadly prohibits abortion without respect to the stage of pregnancy or other interests will violate the right of privacy, which is why it was ruled that in the first trimester, the state may not regulate the abortion decision, meaning that it is up to the individual, up to the pregnant person and their attending physician. Afterwards, then the state can start getting involved, because originally the state, under Republicans, were trying to get in between you and your doctor. Does that sound familiar, that argument? Now, in the second trimester, the state then may impose some regulations on abortion that are reasonably related to maternal health. The third trimester, once the fetus reaches a point of viability, the state may regulate abortion or prohibit them entirely, so long as the laws contain exceptions for cases when abortion is necessary to save the life or health of the mother. Now, have we seen in some of these red states that are very, very anti-abortion, they do not even have those clauses in them. And yet, without Roe v. Wade, that would be legal. So that's how it works, right? Now, getting to the issue of straw manning, as I had mentioned before. Oh, they want abortions up into the moment of birth. No, that's ridiculous. That's an incredible stretch. Incredible stretch. In reality, late-term abortions are very, very rare. According to the Guttmacher Institute, abortions at or after 21 weeks are very uncommon and represent just 1% of all abortions in the U.S. Just 1%. And the reasons they seek these abortions include medical concerns or maternal life endangerment, as well as the barriers, and this is very important, about half of all women that were polled had talked about that had gotten an abortion after 21 weeks, said, that's because I either didn't know that I was pregnant or I ran into these legal barriers that were preventing me from getting an abortion, legal or financial barriers. And that's, of course, thanks to Republicans who made those barriers, who put those barriers into place to block you from getting an abortion that you were legally entitled to do. So understand that. But not only that, of course, related, states had already passed laws to restrict access to abortions later in pregnancy. And that, of course, destroys our argument that, oh, it's the late-term abortion. All of that's a smokescreen. What they want to do is honestly criminalize all abortions and put them back into the back alley coat hangers. So you have that. And again, that's what they want to do. Every single abortion they want to get rid of. If it kills a mother, that's fine. If the fetus is going to die anyway, that's fine. We're pro-life. Now we made both of them die instead of just one that was going to die anyway. Now we made both of the people die. Pro-life. Yeah. Way to go. Way to go. Now, again, that is not the will of the American people. In fact, before I get to the polling on that, here's a little bit more of Alito's position. He said that Roe imposed the same highly restrictive regime on the entire nation and effectively struck down the abortion laws of every single state. We are forcing the regime of allowing people to choose whether or not they have abortions on the entire nation. Ah, yes, how dare you force choice on me? How dare you? He said that it represented the exercise of raw judicial power. Strange. That's what they're doing right now. And sparked a national controversy that has embittered our political culture for half a century. He said in some states, voters may believe that the abortion right should be even more extensive than the right Casey and Roe recognized. Voters in other states may wish to impose tight restrictions based on the belief that abortion destroys an unborn human being. The court short-circuited the democratic process by closing it to the large number of Americans who dissented in any respect from Roe. Together, Roe and Casey represent an error that cannot be allowed to stand. This court's inability to end debate on the issue should not have been surprising. This court cannot bring about the permanent resolution of a rancorous national controversy simply by dictating a settlement and telling the people to move on. Well, now, hold on. Who kept creating the controversy? Right-wingers. The pro-lifers who would go out, so-called pro-lifers, that would go out and actually protest outside of abortion clinics. It would harass the women that would go in there. And not just abortion clinics, of course, any reproductive health clinic that may also actually do abortions as well. And some that don't. They'd sit out there and they'd harass women going in for pap smears, going in for any sort of reproductive health care. Because they think, abortion. No, this has been a narrative that has been driven by the right-wing media sphere. That's what's been going on. That's why it's a big issue. That's why it's a rancorous debate. Because there's one side that has made it a rancorous debate, and the other side that hasn't stopped any of the messaging on it. He then says, we therefore hold the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. Roe and Casey must be overruled, and the authority to regulate abortion must be returned to the people and their elected representatives. Now, look, here's why that would be a disaster. According to an NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll, a total of 77% of Americans say the Supreme Court should uphold Roe. It's very popular, and that's not my reasoning, but again, it would be a disaster. 26 states, representing some 40 million women, have anti-abortion laws at the ready from when Roe is struck down. Those states are Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. 9 states in this group have pre-Roe abortion restrictions that are still in the books. 13 have so-called trigger bans that are tied to Roe being overturned. And 5 states have laws passed over Roe restricting nearly all abortion. Another dozen states have 6 or 8 week abortion restrictions that are not currently in effect, while 1 state, Texas, has a 6-week abortion restriction in effect, and 4 states have constitutions, including Michigan, that bar right to an abortion. So now, an additional 4 Republican-controlled states, Indiana, Montana, Nebraska, and Florida, are poised to pass laws restricting abortion. And so Florida, for example, has a 15-week abortion restriction that will go into effect in July. And the law makes no exceptions for cases of rape or incest, only to save the life of the mother. So now that's, I mean, again, look at all those states. 40 million people, women, will be affected by this. That's a lot. And yet, according to the same poll, 13% of Americans overall say Roe v. Wade should be overturned. And that's it. So what that is an incredibly small minority of people that are making the rules, that are going to make the rules for millions of women. Millions. That is a radical minority of Americans. Radical. 77%. At least according to one poll. Other polls have it upwards of 60 and 70%. That support keeping Roe v. Wade. And there are variations of like, oh, well, we should maybe add a couple more restrictions, or we should take a couple of restrictions away. There's a little bit of nuance on that, but generally they're saying, well, just keep Roe. Roe is a framework, and then maybe add on to it, maybe expand it, maybe do a little bit more restriction, maybe do a slightly less restriction, but keep it because it is fundamental. That, you know what that means? They're pro-choice. That's what it is, pro-choice. And yet half the states that represent millions of Americans who will be affected by this, they're poised to take away the rights of a majority. And how does that happen? Well, that happens through gerrymandering. It happens through money in politics. It happens through voter suppression. It happens through low voter turnout. It happens to voter apathy. And what this results in is a tiny minority of people who are in control and are making decisions, trying to make decisions for everyone else on an issue that doesn't involve them whatsoever. You want to call yourself individualist, small government, conservative, but you're using big government to try to impose your will on other people. And it will trickle out. It will trickle down. It will have ripples on other decisions that are based on this right, fundamental right of privacy. I would say that it's time to wake up and fight, but honestly, for some of us, we've already been awake. But for the rest of you, look, we should have been fighting this years ago. This should have been codified years ago. This shouldn't even be a debate on choice. We said that was going to happen, that this would happen, that Republicans would do this if they had a chance. And now it looks like, oh, look, they told us exactly what they were going to do. And then they did it.